You're watching Brain Gainz.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brain Gainz, the show brought to you live from Bodybuilding.com headquarters. My name is Tyler. This is my good friend Alec. How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's Friday. It's fall.
Feels good. It is Area 51 day, so very excited to hear a little bit more about that one. Keep your eyes peeled. There could be a lot of fun down there.
Nice.
No?
No.
Come on. It'd be fun. What if they discover something? It could be really cool. Anyway, okay, you're giving me nothing. That's fine. Guys, welcome. It's great to have you here. Today we are talking about supplement myths. So if you have any myths that you are interested in learning a little bit more about from the fitness or nutrition industry, please feel free to throw those in chat. Or if we miss those today and you want to get them answered, please feel free to throw them to our email, brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. So, with a Z, that's right, brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. There should be a splash, I think it shows up there. Before we get started, we wanted to give a little bit of a challenge to the audience. So if you're here live, if you're in the comments, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Second of all, we wanted to hear from you. We wanted to try something a little bit different.
It's going to be fun.
I want to hear, actually we want to hear, I should say, we want to hear your best, your wackiest, your weirdest myths surrounding creatine. So we have kind of a running joke around the office that we know a lot about creatine, we've researched it a lot. However, the weirdest things always seem to come up around creatine. Really weird myths, really weird ideas about how it works, what it is, from a chemical standpoint, or how it works physically. So whether it's true or not, I don't care if you're making it up out of thin air or if it's something you've actually heard. Throw your best creatine myths into the chat, and we're going to go over some of our favorites. Maybe we can address some of them for reals at the end. Maybe some of them will just be gags. I want to hear them. I want to hear what your best creatine
Spare
myths
no
are.
expense,
yeah,
please.
Just bring it on. I want to hear it.
I'd like to giggle.
Cool. All right. So we're ready to get started. Let's start with our first one. Alec, myth number one: exercise can outweigh a bad diet. So if I'm exercising, if I work really hard in the gym, I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Go.
So I would say this kind of starts like when an individual hops on the fitness journey train, they start training every day. They start feeling what it feels like to actually be hungry after they've exerted a number of calories, right? So obviously food. They think that, you can literally consume whatever you want, which is unfortunate to some degree. I would say there are some ways in which you can get away with a couple things in there, like flexible dieting is a great approach for that. However, at the end of the day, no, you cannot just, you know what, I went and ran for 20 minutes, so I'm going to go to Golden Corral now.
Sure, absolutely.
Sounds like a good time, but
yeah.
no.
So we've all felt that before. You work out really hard, but now you're feeling hungry, and you think, I'm going to reward myself for this workout, and you go eat a bunch of cookies or some Big Macs or whatever.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, right. Treat yourself. Unfortunately, no. So I don't know if you've ever done the math. We'll use this as an example. Running a mile for most people of varying weights, sizes, and speeds. Running a mile pretty hard gives you about 100 calories of exercise. There's plus, there's minus. I would say this is a pretty broad generalization. What does 100 calories of chicken nuggets look like?
Maybe un nugget.
Right, it's like 2 or 3 nuggets. So you think of the effort and the time that it takes for you to run a mile, which for some is not that hard. For others, it can be very challenging. And that's 2 chicken McNuggets that you've consumed in response to that. And now think of how much that you eat over the course of the day, whether it be your snacks or your meals. It is very difficult to outweigh some of the decisions that people make with just exercise. So that's why we always talk about, if you're looking to lose weight, you start with your diet first and then use exercise to complement it, because making sure that your diet is in line and your macros are good and your total calorie intake is good and your total protein intake is stable, then you start worrying about exercise, because that nutrition can make such a huge difference without even really thinking about it.
It's literally just setting yourself up for the foundation of what can set you up for the most success. You can, if you're putting yourself into a caloric deficit and you happen to be making some iffy choices in terms of what you're consuming, maybe it'll pay off, but from a general health standpoint, it's not the way to go.
Sure.
But now, if you work harder than most and you decide, you know what, I just really like food, I'm just going to hit 20,000 steps a day, lift all this, you might be able to get away with a little leeway. But
Well, you're a really good example of that, Alec. I mean, we generally don't like to tell people to consume a lot of simple carbs, right? So like a lot of cereals or what I would consider simple carbohydrates because they're things like rice and sugars and stuff like that. But, with your exercise regimen, you're able to fit in bowls of cereal as a part of your regular carb intake.
I've had 2 bowls of cereal already.
That's right, because A, you work out really hard, and B, the rest of your diet is super balanced. So this is not to say you can't eat fun things. We've talked multiple times on this show about flexible dieting, but to say that like I can have whatever I want because I'm exercising is in fact a myth of fitness. So be careful on that one.
And then the next myth on this one, we've got muscle. This is actually a really fun one. So I would say probably a myth that goes back to, I don't know, as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Muscle devolves into fat if I stop working out. So essentially what the myth is saying is all this muscle I've gained from exercising over time, if I stop, it'll into fat, which is not the case. They're 2 separate tissue types. You can't trick your body to mutate itself like that.
That's true. Now you can lose muscle if you stop working out. You can gain fat if you stop working out, but it's not physically transforming into fat. 2 very different cellular structures, 2 very different sets of things going on inside those cells. So no. Now I guess the end result is pretty similar, right? More fat, less muscle, but it's not physically transforming.
Yes.
I know that's kind of a silly myth, but we figured we saw it and we've wanted to address it.
It's kind of in the same realm as like toning up. I think we're going to touch on that potentially.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get to a couple questions before we jumped into
Ooh.
there. Yeah, we got a couple of good ones. So Deshwal from YouTube says, what about a low protein diet and good exercise? So can you get away with having low protein if you are exercising really well?
It comes down to what your fitness goal is. Is your goal to just maintain a good activity and like you want to just be general health and maintain? For a certain degree, I would agree with that, but I would say at the end of the day, I know we have a couple more questions in queue about protein consumption. General recommendation, gram per pound of body weight.
Right. And
So
protein is definitely not where I would cut. We've done a lot of studies on the effects of a high protein diet or even just a moderate protein diet. Protein's super important. And as far as calorie intake, protein doesn't generally act like carbohydrates and fat. It seems to act in such a way that you can consume a little bit more of it without it acting like it's contributing to your total calorie intake per day. And I know that sounds super weird and super off science, but we've seen exercisers increase their total calorie intake. So think of like 2,200 calories a day versus 2,000 calories a day. And they're not gaining extra weight because those extra 200 calories are entirely protein. And so it's kind of this weird dynamic that's going on inside with your protein intake increase. So I'd be a little wary to jump in and say like, I'm gonna exercise more and take less protein because I feel like you are actively going against yourself there.
You're putting yourself in.
But like Alex said, it is very dependent on what your goals are, right? So
like you're forcing catabolism at that point,
Yep.
right? So if you're breaking down all this muscle and your goal is to continue breaking it down and you just sort of try to like maybe lose weight, some people that's just their general goal is to look at the number on the scale and that goes down. If you are a content person in terms of body image and you want to roll that way, do it to it. There's so many different ways in terms of how we can view ourselves. It's not just one set pattern with that, but
we're going to hit 2 questions at once from early in the show. Should I be taking protein equal to my body weight or more than it? How many grams per pound of body weight should I consume? A really easy number for a lot of people to follow is just consume a gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. That's a really great spot to hit, even if you're trying to gain muscle or if you're trying to lose weight. Hitting that number first and then building your macro calculator around that is a really great place to start.
And we have so earlier in the episode, we challenged the viewers to come up with we want to call it outlandish. I'm hoping for the outlandish, the kind of crazy creatine myths that they can think of. But I really like this one because it kind of fits both of us currently. Creatine is necessary to grow a beard. I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no.
I will say that I have been consuming creatine and my beard has grown. Coincidence?
Hey.
I don't know.
That's up to you.
Difficult to say. Okay, moving on. Precision fat loss. So we were about to touch on this a minute ago. Now we're jumping in. What is precision fat loss? If I do a lot of crunches, I'm going to get great abs and lose belly fat. Alec, what do you think, man?
I think myth.
That's
right.
So
when it comes down to it, when you're burning total calories, that's really the big deal when it comes to body fat, right? So you're trying to consume less than what you're burning, right? So burn more, and to do so, that's just going to, depending upon your predisposition to where you hold fat, that's going to be genetic based, and top of that, your total activity, all this and that that'll dictate it. So it can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna do some curls and that's gonna lose,
That's right, man.
that's gonna lose body fat on your arms.
Wouldn't that be cool? No, your body stores fat exactly how it likes, and you have no control over that. I'm sorry. But if you're looking to lose belly fat, you need to just lose fat in general, and that falls into the general guidelines that we've talked about multiple times of just upping your protein intake, decreasing your total calorie intake, working out really hard, and being a smarter exerciser and nutrition person. It does not mean do a bunch of crunches. Now, I will say doing crunches or doing weighted ab exercises could help your abs grow, right? The muscles will physically get bigger, and thus it is more possible that you could see them, but that doesn't mean that the fat that sits on top of them will get any less. So keep that in mind.
So if you follow 8-minute ab videos from the 1990s, it might be time to change it up. You can try that MetaBurn 90. I'm on that one right now. It's working out pretty well. Doing a lot of good crunches. Scott Harmon, thanks, man. Okay. This is a fun one. If women lift weights, they will get bulky. I get this question a lot. We see it all the time. And it's an unfortunate myth that exists that a lot of women are scared to lift weights because they're afraid of getting really muscular, getting those big, broad shoulders that they see. And the fact of the matter is that this is pretty mythical. This is based on seeing the people who are really outliers as far as internal hormone balance. Generally speaking, in order to get big and bulky, you need to have fairly high testosterone levels. And in general, women do not have the testosterone levels to get super bulky. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. There are women who will see muscle gains when they are lifting heavy weights, but there are also exceptions to the rule on the other side, as there are a lot of men who do not have the testosterone in order to get really bulky after they lift weights either. So the answer that we always give people is get in there, lift some weights, see how your body responds to it. There's a really great chance that you're probably not going to get super bulky. You're just going to get a little bit stronger and a little bit more fit. Having said that, I've seen women that are much stronger than some of the bros out there.
So. Oh, yeah. There's outliers on both sides.
That comes down to effort and electrofibers, or your transmission of your muscle fibers. So,
there you go.
But no, again, that is the biggest one. I think lifting is an extremely empowering hobby to pick up, and for women to get stronger, to gain a little more muscle, feel better about themselves. That's great. And the fact that this myth has been perpetuated is unfortunate.
It's a bummer. Okay, let's hit a couple questions before we move on. How many times is a maximum for our abs to hit in a week? Inderjeet. I would say, Alec, why don't you take this one? I don't want to be wrong here.
I think it really depends, again, how you're training in general. Like if you're doing a lot of compound movements that are engaging your core, you probably don't need to train them as much.
Right.
I know a lot of people that train them as if you're training other body parts. So if you're assuming you're like training like an arm day, you're going to do maybe abs that day. What's the general rule of thumb? I think it's like try to do 9 working sets per muscle group with a decent amount of intensity. So if you're taking it from that approach, do it to it. But there's not really a limit you can do, but just know that if you're not letting your core heal up, it's going to be the same as if you're not letting any other muscle groups heal up. So
that's a good answer. Great. Okay, we got more questions. What happens if we take too much protein, more than required? You will expel it. Your body's really good at getting rid of what it doesn't need.
Farts too.
Yeah, well.
That's fine.
That's all good. But anyway, your body has a really strong system for what's called nitrogen balance. And since protein is a nitrogen supplying compound, that means that your body will do whatever it takes in order to get rid of that excess nitrogen. That generally comes out in the form of urea or uric acid, and that is in your urine. So you'll see nitrogen expelled that way. And then if your body doesn't need it, you'll expel it through multiple routes. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, we've seen horror stories of people who have some very specific metabolic issues have trouble with high protein diets. If you feel like that may be the case for you, please go talk to your doctor, because we are not medical doctors here. But those are very super rare, and we generally don't think about those when we're giving general advice to the population. So in general, you probably don't have to worry about it. It's actually really hard to consume that much protein. So we've seen not medical studies, but we've seen studies done on athletes with as much as 3 grams of protein per pound of body weight, which is a massive amount of protein. And the biggest thing that they found out was that the athletes were generating so much internal heat. There's so much thermogenesis from the metabolism of this protein that they would have to just sit under ceiling fans and sweat. You guys have heard of meat sweats. You've heard of the thermic effect of food, and protein has the highest thermic effect. Your body generates so much heat breaking down all this protein that it becomes uncomfortable. That is probably the worst thing that you would have to look forward to if you were consuming that much protein. But again, it's a lot and it's hard to eat that much, and it would be expensive. So
yeah, that's not really something. I mean, if you can afford it and you like enjoy sweating by yourself, you can do that, but you don't need to do that. And then here's a next kind of topic. It's similar to what I would say that this is a lot of more in the the competitor realm, fasted cardio. Does fasted cardio burn more than having food in your stomach?
Right. So fasted cardio is a really contentious topic, and the reason it's contentious is because we've seen data show that it's better, and we've seen data that shows that it's not better. And so the best answer that we can give right now is yes, it's better, and no, it's not better, because we have data that goes both ways. I'm going to start with a personal note, and then we'll go in there. Personally, I have seen that fasted cardio is more of a challenge because you're going into your exercise depleted, right? So this is going to do your exercise in the morning before you've eaten, or you're doing it at the end of the day having not eaten since the day before. You're doing it with as little carbs in your system as possible, and because your carb count is low, then your body is reaching out to the fat stores in order to get the energy that it needs. But I've found out that your body's really slow at generating energy from fat stores, and because of that, your general exercise intensity is reduced. And we've talked multiple times about how intensity can be the #1 drivers for adaptation when it comes to exercise, and so if your intensity is decreased, it's a lot more difficult to adapt to that exercise.
And again, it comes down to your goal with it too, like most things. I know that sounds really kind of cliche on it, but if your goal is to maybe increase your exercise performance in terms of maybe you're training for endurance, I would recommend you do not do that on an empty stomach.
Sure. Now, to address some of the science that has shown that it is helpful, your body does oxidize more fat cells when you are doing fasted cardio. So the theory behind it is true. Your body does break down more fat cells when you are exercising in a fasted state. Now, whether you can utilize all the fat that your body breaks down and puts into your bloodstream throughout the 20 to 60 minutes that you're exercising, that remains to be seen. So say 10 fat cells break down. I know that's really general, but say 10 fat cells break down, and now that fat is in your blood to be used as energy. There's not a guarantee that your body will use all 10 fat energies as a part of your exercise. It might only use 6, and then 4 of those just go right back into being fat. Again, I know that's a really big overgeneralization, but I'm just trying to make the numbers simple. But anyway, it falls under, it's not going to be bad for you. It's not going to hurt you. You may not see immediate results. You may love it. And so if that's something you want to try, go for it. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing that would make Alec and I say this is something you should avoid. Give it a shot. Try it for a week or two and see if you feel like it's more advantageous. I tried it and I didn't like it as much. I know Alec has tried it before and has felt like it wasn't for him, but that doesn't mean that it's not for you. So give it a shot and see what happens. A couple more questions. Can I get huge without supplements? Yes, it's just very hard to get that much protein, get that much calories, but it's also a little bit more expensive. Food is expensive. You think about where your protein comes if you're not taking a whey supplement shake. You get protein from meat, you get protein from some vegetables, and meat's expensive. Even the cheapest ones that we have, chicken, right? It gets expensive over time, and if you're consuming 200 grams of protein per day, it's a lot. And so
chicken.
We talk about supplements as if they are a supplement to your diet. That's a very specific term. That means that if you have a strong diet that hits all the macros that you need, cool, that's great. You're ahead of the curve. But supplements exist to make it easier and more cost efficient for people to hit that stuff. Let's see. Is it true Chuck Norris created protein powder by punching a cow?
It's not.
I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah, say it's not. There's no evidence to the contrary. So we'll see.
I wonder how chocolate milk was made then.
Oh, he punched it with a chocolate fist, of course. I'm trying to see if there's any more questions here before we move on. Do women need different exercises than men? Go.
No, they do not. They're a human being.
That's right. Generally speaking, women do not need any different type of training. Again, this is generally speaking, but for the most part, no, they do not need anything different.
And here's a question. It's a two for. They're both from YouTube, from Iconic, and then a no name on this one, but. It said, the question was, is creatine bad for your kidneys and is protein bad for your kidneys?
Okay.
So we can't answer that holistically. For most people, no.
Right.
But if you do happen to have a genetic disorder that may be more predisposed to develop issues, again, talk to your doctor. We are not doctors. We can give general advice, but we can't go that far.
The overarching body of data tells us that no, these things are not dangerous for you, especially protein, because protein is just part of the food that we eat every day. Your body is exceedingly good at getting rid of extra. As far as creatine goes, we have a lot of long-term safety data that shows us that it's safe. But again, everyone is different. There could be someone out there that takes creatine and has a bad experience with it. So if you feel like you may be susceptible to that, if you have kidney disease, if you're on dialysis, that's definitely a doctor question and not a Tyler and Alec question.
No.
But anyway, okay. Can protein powder cause acne? No, it's just food. It's just food. It's just protein.
I mean, if you happen to have a dairy issue and that happens to like cause hormonal acne, maybe. But that's, again, comes down to if you are genetically predisposed to get that. I know that my wife has lactose sensitivity, and we have to be careful with certain things involving hormonal acne. But like, that's about it. But
that's
again,
a lactose issue.
But that's lactose. It's not protein. So you can get a plant protein. You can do that, and as long as you're hitting your macronutrient needs, it's fine.
Is bodybuilding harmful for a singer's voice?
I was going to read that one.
This is a really interesting question. I had never considered that.
I mean, I wonder if DMX bodybuilded, because his voice is really scary.
It's really low. So let's think about how a voice works, right? So it's the muscles in your larynx, and you're tightening and loosening those muscles, and you're pushing air through them. And as a part of really heavy bodybuilding, you are increasing the size of the muscles in your neck.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say that it's impossible. It's possible.
I'm just saying, if you heard The Rock sing in Moana, it was pretty excellent, and he's a big man.
Does it make it so you cannot sing? Absolutely not.
No.
And you may even get some better core strength so you can really project.
Diaphragm.
That's right, really get up in there. However,
that's a great question, though.
It's an awesome question, but there's very little specific data to singers in bodybuilding, so I can't really say either way.
Whoever asked that question, if you can find a person to help fund this study, I'd love to.
That'd be great. Brain.Gainz, Bodybuilding.com. That'd be awesome. All right, moving on. The anabolic window, Alec. So this is a theory that exists where if you work out and you go to the gym and you work real hard and you come home, if you don't have your protein shake in 30 minutes, it was as if the exercise never happened.
Nope.
Wrong.
It's like posting.
That's right.
If you don't post,
so
you didn't do it.
That's if you didn't post on Instagram, did you even exercise? No. So we talk about this a lot. Your response to exercise, your growth, and your recovery are much more focused on your general intake for the day, your total protein, your total fat and carb intake throughout the day. And if you are constantly hitting those macros, then you're going to be just fine. Now, it's probably slightly better if you have that protein in your blood when your muscles are doing that recovery at the highest rate. And for the most elite athletes looking to make those extra stretches of improvements, sure, go for it. And if you are just getting into exercise and you feel like that's when you are going to take your protein most consistently, cool, do it. But as far as the general person who wants to be healthy and wants to get fit and wants to gain muscle, just make sure you're hitting those macros. You can be good to go.
Didn't Willoughby do a study that was like 24 hours almost?
I believe he did. Yep. He's a good guy.
Yes, he is.
Not being sore means you didn't get a good workout.
That's a fun one. It's not true. Having said that, exercise adaptation does happen. So then, like, maybe you're starting a new program and you are figuring out maybe like your limits for working sets and all that. But you can have a great workout. The fact that you maybe are improving in a strength-based lift, right? So, but that doesn't require you to like feel like you need to be in a hospital bed beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there is a disorder called rhabdo where you are.
What's the full word?
Oh, you do it. I don't want to say it.
Rhabdomyolysis.
There we go. See? And it's where it's overtraining syndrome.
Right.
It's where what's the marker that is getting in your blood?
Is it creatinine, I think? Or creatine? No, it's not creatine. I think it's creatinine.
Yeah. Anyway, point is that there is a byproduct of exercise that is getting in your blood. It will put you in. We're searching right now, but I know a lot of people that prefer. I'm not a downer on CrossFit by any means, but they like to push themselves to a limit that most people don't like to. And the only people that I've seen lately go get rhabdo are CrossFitters primarily. Yeah. And they just push themselves, or maybe you you're just love being active and you decided to take a little too far one day.
Sure.
What is it?
Creatine kinase.
There we go.
So close.
There we go.
Yeah. So from a scientific standpoint, when you are exercising and then you are sore the next day, we know that as delayed onset muscle soreness, right? And delayed onset muscle soreness is simply the inflammation that takes place in response to the damage that you've done to your muscles. So when you're exercising and you're lifting hard, we've all heard of those little micro tears that take place on your muscles because they're working harder than they're used to. And so that acts as an injury. Your body sees it as an injury, just as if you were to scrape your arm or something like that. And we've all seen it. When you get a scrape, the area gets red and puffy because more blood is flowing to that area. It swells up. And so the same thing is happening to your muscles. They are swelling because they're dealing with this injury that's taken place to them. Now, it's not an injury per se, like you tore a hamstring or something like that, but your body sees it as an injury itself, and so it treats it like that. And so it is the body's treatment of that micro tear that allows it to rebuild it stronger than it was before. And so, yes, being sore means that you will see adaptations to that exercise, but that does not mean that if you are not sore, you are not seeing improvements, you are not burning calories, you are not better today than you were yesterday because you're not sore. So please.
Which is kind of a good segue into this next one. Static stretches are better before exercise is good. So, and by that, so in exercise, maybe you took a muscle stretch too far in this case. So you go in cold to work out and you decided to I'm just going to stretch the whole time. Because historically, like before gym class, that's what you do.
So they tell you in PE every day,
static stretches. So the better alternative is more of the kinetic kind of stretching. So you're doing a dynamic warm-up. So you're actually doing an exercise to then warm up for it. Yet you slowly kind of build into it, but you're not going to do like heel to toe, do that. Like those aren't necessarily going to benefit you. Actually doing an exercise to then warm up. There's a variety of different dynamic warm-ups, whether it be band work, by doing side-by-sides or warming up your hip flexors and your glutes that way, or even just pressing a bar.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in the long run, it is better to do this way. I mean, if you can do static stretching, but to a certain degree, then they show that like a decent amount of power output was decreased due to static warm-up, due to the slight further stretches.
There you go.
Yep. So
take it to the bank. All right, so that is it for our myths for today. If you have any more myths that you want addressed, or if you feel like we missed any in chat, first of all, we're sorry. Second of all, thank you so much for putting those into chat. If you feel like we missed you, please reach out to us at brain.gainz at Bodybuilding.com. We check that email all the time. We've had some really good conversations with people via that. So if you want to reach out and ask those questions, we can get back to you promptly that way. So before we sign off for the day, we wanted to get back to the question that we posed at the very beginning of the episode. Please send us all your creatine myths. So we wanted to hit these all kind of, bang, bang, bang. So let's see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top. Let's see. Is creatine good as a teen? It is fine, but make sure you check with your parents. Don't go spending money on stuff you're not supposed to.
I want to say this one. Creatine turns your body into a balloon, and if you stop taking it, you get flabby skin.
Woo!
That's terrifying.
Can you imagine? No, you don't get flabby skin. Creatine does allow you to retain a little bit more water, and when you stop taking creatine, you might lose a little bit of that water. You're not going to have flabby skin. That's not how that works. Hello from San Antonio, Texas. Is creatine good for you in portions? Yes, 5-gram portions. Check it out. Let's see. You'll gain weight from creatine. You will gain water weight from creatine. And if you increase your intensity because of creatine, you could gain muscle as well.
Which is
That's
weight.
right. Is creatine dangerous for the kidneys? According to what we know, no, it is not.
No.
They've done a lot of long-term studies on it, and it should be just fine.
Is creatine good for beginner lifters? Yes.
Sure, absolutely. After using creatine, can I lift more weight? In theory, but it has to be a part of a good program. You have to be lifting hard. But over time, over the course of creatine and loading it in and getting your body saturated with it, the idea is that creatine acts as a better energy source, so you should be able to lift with a little bit more intensity. It is necessary to grow a beard. Again,
yes,
there is
maybe.
A correlation. Is there causation? I don't know. Is creatine, creatine monohydrate taken with a specific amount of protein and carbs post-workout to better absorb the creatine? We don't have any data that shows us that creatine has any trouble getting absorbed. So you shouldn't have too much trouble. Take it with your protein shake, sure, that's a great way to do it. Take it with a meal, sure, that's fine. Take it in a glass of water straight. I wouldn't do it because it probably doesn't taste that good, but it's probably just fine. The cool part about creatine is it's not something that is going to help you today when you are taking it. It is something that is going to help you over the course of time. And so your timing and when you take it is entirely up to you as long as you are taking it every day. Does creatine have any disadvantages? This is a really good question. So does it have any disadvantages? If you have trouble being consistent with creatine, it may be money down the drain because creatine needs to be taken consistently. And so if that's something that you struggle with, that may be a loss.
And then the flip side of that is if you take too much, because then you're money down the drain because your body can only.
It's also true.
5 grams is what you should take.
Right. You can take 5 grams a day. If you want to get saturated quicker, you can do the 20 grams a day for like the first week. But then after that, you're at maximum, and then you're just pouring creatine down the drain. As far as safety goes, again, I'm going to come back to what we've said multiple times today. According to the long-term data that we have, if you're taking 5 grams a day, there's really nothing that shows us that it should be dangerous unless you have some really outstanding kidney issue or liver issue that I don't know anything about. That's why we always mention talking to doctors and being a part of it.
And creatine is only for bodybuilders. No, it's for athletics in general.
Yeah, man, if you're doing active stuff, it's good for you. Do you think creatine HCl is superior to monohydrate because of the better absorption and less loading? We don't have enough data to show that. So there has been some studies on HCl and how it can get your blood levels up after only 2 grams. But the problem is that's like 1 or 2 studies versus like 50 or 100. Once we've had a little bit more time to look at HCl and compare it to monohydrate, many times and in multiple different frames, then we'll have a little bit more clear picture of that. But if it's something that you like a little bit better, or maybe you feel like your results are better with HCl, sure, give it a shot.
Creatine is not natural, and it's also a steroid. It's an amino acid.
Yeah, so creatine is actually found naturally in a lot of meats, and it is not a steroid because it is chemically very different from a steroid because it does not contain a sterol group. It is not based on cholesterol in any way. It is an amino acid, so it is chemically completely different. It is apples and dogs. Anyway, let's see. When loading up on creatine, how much should you take daily? 5 grams. Unless you want to load heavy, then it's 20 grams for a week, then it's 5 grams. Is creatine good for gingers like Mark Doubleday, our man behind the camera? That is right. Yes, it is good for gingers like our producer behind the camera. Okay, so thank you, everyone. These were some really good creatine questions. I'm glad we kind of bang them out like that. Again, if you have any more questions about creatine, brain.gainz at Bodybuilding.com. Before I let you go today, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to hit a couple of deals that we got going on the website. We have some new products from Zint. White quinoa, beef gelatin, collagen hydrolysate, and probiotic plus collagen. From Nutrex, we have Alpha Pump, Lipo 6 Black Keto, EAA plus hydration, and plant protein. From Irwin Naturals, we have, a lot.
Yep.
Triple Diet Max Accelerator, Triple Boost Caffeine-Free Energy, Biotin 6000 Hair and Nails, For Skull and Fat Loss Diet, Brain Awake, Testosterone Fat, Extra Fat Burner, Mega B Complex, Maca Root and Ashwagandha, Tribulus Primal Male, and from Bucked Up, we have Woke AF, Bucked Up, and Racked BCAAs. Those are great names. Great job, Bucked Up. And then finally, coming soon, we have Go Pure Labs. So if you are a fan of Go Pure Labs, there's a massive list of products there that I'm not going to read. But if you like Go Pure, they will be on site soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then you want to take the last little bit?
So right now we've got some deals going besides the new products. So currently there's an up to 50% off health and wellness sale, as well as our private label brand Revel has a buy one get one line drive. And I believe there's a warehouse sale that was advertised. Some things are going to be up to 80% off.
That's right.
As well as a BOGO event that is going on currently for some top brands.
Our loss is your gain. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. This has been a blast, and I appreciate all the feedback today. Until next time, keep on lifting.
This program was designed to develop your overall athleticism.
We created Mind Body Fit to help women achieve all-over wellness. You'll find tons of articles on nutrition, exercise, and even beauty.
Shoulders define your upper body. Just add these 2 workouts into your split each week to build bigger and more defined delts.
With my Kingmaker program, you'll build muscle and a special kind of mental toughness that can overcome any challenge.
With MetaBurn 90, all you'll need is a few dumbbells and 30 minutes or less a day to burn fat and achieve peak fitness in a very short, concentrated amount of time.
Everything is laid out for you in detail.
We're positive you'll find unique pieces that will help you feel your best every single day.
Control your world, but it all starts with you. Only at Bodybuilding.com, all access.